इतना सा फर्क है कुछ होने में और बहुत कुछ होने में। इतना सा फर्क है एक बार सोच के छोड़ देने में और लग के कर दिखाने में। मान लेने में कि जिंदगी ऐसे ही कटेगी और सुबह 4 बजे उठ के सोचने में कि अभी तो बस शुरुआत है। किसी मैगजीन को हाथ में लेने में और उसी मैगजीन के कवर पेज पे होने में इतना सा ही तो फर्क है। वीआईपी सीट में और उसकी पिछली सीट में इतना सा ही तो फर्क है। वो जिसका मैदान ही खुला आसमान है वही कल जमीन पर तो था। पूछोगे तो बताएगा वो पंछी कि एक दायरे में सिमटने में और पूरी दुनिया को दायरा बनाने में बस इतना सा फर्क है। इतना कितना है? इतना है या इतना है? जो नापेगा वो जाने कि जहां धरती और आसमान मिलते हैं, नानकुर से दूर, अगर मगर शायद से दूर, वहां भी दोनों में फर्क बस इतना सा है। धरती और 7वें आसमान में फर्क बस इतना सा है। ये एक अंतर प्रेरणा है। ये हमारी, आपकी, हम सब की अंतर प्रेरणा है। एक कदम, एक छलांग, एक बाजी, एक गहरी सांस और एक ललकार खुली हवाओं में कि हाँ मैं बना हूं उन फिजाओं के लिए, कि हाँ मैं बना हूं उन ऊंचाइयों के लिए जो ऊंची तो बहुत है पर नामुमकिन भी नहीं, क्योंकि मुमकिन और नामुमकिन में बस इतना सा फर्क है। धूप छांव में फर्क बस इतना सा है। तो बस चलिए फ्रैंचाइज इंडिया के साथ ये फर्क मिटा देते हैं। फ्रैंचाइज इंडिया, 20 years of ideas.
Archana, you are on mute.
Good afternoon, everyone. We welcome all of you to Business Opportunity Over Chai webinar series. This is an attempt to digitally represent the business opportunity for you so that you digitally interact with the leadership team of the brand, understand their business model, and make the most out of this webinar. We have created a question and answer box, so we request each one of you to share your feedback and suggestion in the same. We welcome management team of Franchise India, Gaurav sir, Sonia ma'am, for this particular webinar. The webinar will be hosted by both of them. And the business opportunity which we are relaunching today is Zorgers. They bring professional healthcare services and help at the comfort of their homes. They already enjoy the legacy of 8 years in the industry. They have presence in 10 cities and they have 11 million plus hours of care delivered. But what to offer in the market by their side? We have invited Mr. Varun, who is a founder at Zorgers, to share his journey and inspire all of us. Thank you so much, Varun, for joining in today. Maybe request to have presentation from your side, but before that, if you can start with your journey, how you started this particular venture and what offering you are offered today, that will be great.
Sure. Thank you so much, Archana. Firstly, we are having this call on a very auspicious day of Mahashivratri, and Har Har Mahadev to everyone on the call. Right. So guys, yes. So I'm going to talk briefly about. My name is Varun Gupta, and I'm a founder and a CEO with Zorgers Home Healthcare. So essentially, what we are the subject that we're going to talk about is home healthcare, right? And I'm going to talk briefly about my journey first. I'm a software engineer, computer science and engineering graduate, passed out of Punjab University. And it's been almost 8 years of journey for me building this home healthcare brand, starting with North India, spreading wings across India by now. And prior to that, I started my journey from a corporate side, working in the telecom and IT space for close to nearly 11.5 to 12 years. I've been heading the international business responsible for expansion of businesses towards the Latin America and Middle East, before I decided to start my own venture. So healthcare has always been close to my heart, and triggered by some of the family episodes during my job days, and I was extensively traveling, and that's where some of the problems occurred back at home, which made me realize that how important is a segment. And so today all of us are getting busy in our lives, and some many a times the situation comes when you have to kind of rethink the way the life is going on, and you see that the important ones back at home are need a lot of attention. And that's how the idea of starting something in the home healthcare space, followed by a very deep research toward the Western market, how the things are taken care from a healthcare point of view in these advanced economies, like we talk about US, Canada, Australia, or UK, how they've been taking care of these kind of things. And that's how I started my initial journey, initially with the brand name of Carepur. Gradually we moved it on to Zorgers, right? So yes, so I will now I will move on to the presentation part of it. So I would start from a statement like today we say that most of the stuff we see happening at home, like even you see that the food delivery kind of a thing, we talk about Zomato, Swiggy kind of a models, and similarly we talk about the saloon services, we think about the urban kind of a company which is bringing all possible whether the beauty kind of a services, saloon kind of a services, or to that extent of getting an electrician, plumbers at home. So why not getting the world-class healthcare at home, right? So that's the principal idea, or the theme which Zorgers have been building this brand around, right? So it is all about bringing the world-class healthcare ecosystem at home. The segment that we've been dealing is predominantly about the dependent elders and veteran patients, right? So if we talk about few facts, right, so which are very important for all of us to know, we talk about nearly 11 to 12% of India's population by this time also, which is geriatric. Though we all talk about the largely India being a young nation, so this fact is equally important to understand that by now also we have already turned around 11% as a geriatric, which is typically to be called a 60 plus kind of a population in India, right? And when we talk about geriatric, so there is a segment called dependent elder, right? So people who have can be in any age group, right? So anything about somebody can become dependent even at 50s, but mostly I would say today if we look at the healthcare scenario in India, so essentially we say the people who are like 70 plus and going through some kind of a medical ailments, and people turn out to be more like the babies, right? So they need day-to-day tender kind of a care, like assistance. We call something like assistance in daily living jobs kind of a phenomena, which is required for this kind of a work, the population segment. Every city would have nearly this kind of a population under a dependent category. Then we say the second important parameter to understand is that any city we talk about, nearly minimum 5 up to 8% of city's population is anytime going through a medical kind of an episode, right? So either we are in an IPD kind of a framework, like someone in the family is hospitalized, it can be a knee replacement kind of a thing, it can be trauma kind of a thing, somebody going through cancer, kidney, a lot of stuff which is happening, and these things require a more or less a full-time effort to manage such patients or ensure a healthy recovery programs, right? So this is how the Zorgers right from where we started till now. So Namrata, if I may request to keep moving the slide part. Hello. Hi, Archan.
Namrata, you need to.
The slides are moving.
No, we can't see it. It's on the same slide. Probably you need to reload it. You want me to help you with the same?
Okay, actually I can see the slides moving. So
no worries, I'll do that.
Okay.
Varun,
Okay.
I'm sharing my screen. Just let me know when to go next.
Sure. So I will keep moving on. So essentially what we were talking about is that, Zorgers as a brand, what we have created is that firstly in terms of, the type of support that we've been providing is right from a very, very basic level of a care. Like, so this slide is typically talking about, bringing all the professionally managed healthcare ecosystem at home, right? So it is more in terms of, we have supported more than 30,000 plus families or patients till now. And the support system is like from a very, very basic level of a care, like something to be called as ADL, like assistance in daily living jobs, to something which is highly intensive in nature, something like, setting up an ICU at home, even a chemotherapy or dialysis things at home, right? So the KPIs that we've been talking about is like nearly 8 years of journey, about 12 million plus hours of caregiving, 30,000 plus patients or families that we've served till now, with a workforce which is 4,500 people on ground, right? So, and nearly the 7 plus operational units that we have by now, right? The next one. So this is, I mean, when we talk about caring for loved one is more or less like a daily job. We can't say that it is it is like an occasional phenomenon. It's a daily phenomena, right? And this is what Zorgers is all about. You talk about all our social media, I mean, the way we are structured in terms of whether getting the feedbacks from our customer, in terms of providing, you see all these images are all about engaging with how the caregivers engage with the families on a day-to-day basis, whether it is a very, very basic level of a support, or again to something which is very, very critical. So all segments that we've been supporting. And when I say that the things that people are getting busy in their life, today we talk about a lot of migration which is happening, right? So we all are moving either from tier B towns to tier A towns, or tier A guy moving to a metro, or finally becoming an NRI in life, right? So there is a lot of migration which is happening both domestically or international. So leaving behind your loved ones in a particular age group who would need a tender care, right? Move on. So this is our superheroes, right, which is the caregivers. And we've been fairly, Zorgers as a brand is fairly committed in terms of uplifting this career in India, right? So we want the people, or the workforce, to happily call themselves as a caregivers, the people who are the home health professionals, taking care of all these elders or the bedridden patients, supporting them in daily living activities or in the recovery phase, right? So they are truly, and by heart, I can say that they are all our superheroes, our strength, the pillars of our success, right? Let's move to the next one. Yeah, so now coming to the overall, the way we are structured. So in terms of service portfolio, it's a complete integrated kind of an approach, right? So we say D2H, which is like a direct to home healthcare services. So essentially it is more in the form of providing all possible a bedside kind of a care to an ICU care, including the element the way we have structured the whole thing is we call it as a level 1, 2, and 3 kind of a phenomena, right? So level 1 of a care is something which is technically a non-medical, or more like a bedside assistance for any dependent elder or even a newborn kind of a baby, right? So it requires more like assistance in daily living jobs, like assistance in bathing, toileting, getting dressed up, serving diets, taking care of hygiene. So that's one part. Level 2 is more in terms of something which is like a post-hospital kind of a recovery, right? So when you're getting your patient discharged from a hospital, that is a time when you would decide to have some kind of a professional ecosystem at home to ensure that not just because, and it is a fact also, if we talk about the worldwide studies, the more than the time that a patient spends in a hospital framework, it is the post-hospital care which actually decides the recovery, right? So whether you spend almost 10 to 15 lakhs, or sometimes 50 odd lakhs in a hospital through a particular surgical kind of an episode, or anything which has happened on from a medical point of view, eventually how better you are being taken care at a home is something which will really decide your recovery program, right? So again, so level 2 is all about a journey nursing kind of a support, a physiotherapy kind of a support, medical equipment kind of a support, both on sale as well as rental when we talk about equipment. And thirdly, it is like the level 3 is more like the deep intensive care support system at home, like setting up the ICU monitoring setups at home, right? So ISO monitoring would mean there is a an ICU critical nurse which is involved, there's the medical attendant which is involved, a doctor is supervising the care, there is a therapist who is ensuring the complete rehab part, a lot of medical equipment, whatever is required to make the patient comfortable at home, from a very basic things like a patient bed, walker, wheelchair kind of a thing, to something which is more intensive, like the ventilator, BiPAP, CPAP, or oxygen setups at home. So this is the D2C vertical, which is likely the organized supply of medical professionals and also the equipments on the rental and sale. Then when we progress a city, when we launch a city, it is with the launch of D2H as a vertical. So gradually all these the verticals on the right side keep getting added in the system. Like for example, VAS is like a value-added services, right? So when you already connected to an elder or a patient at home, so things like the family insurance or a health insurance becomes very important. Many a times the family may struggle or have a the financial crisis at home because of the long medical situation. So there are things like the health finance which is available, the diagnostic services like both the things like the X-ray, PVT, PFTs, or I would say the Holter kind of things which are available, or to the blood investigations are available at home, right? And then we talk about a D2I kind of a vertical, which is like a direct to institute, right? So when we progress a city, starting from a B2C as a vertical, we start building a strong B2B alliances with the hospital partners, with a lot of corporates, ensuring that, the things like the setting up the medical rooms within a corporate is possible, like, working with specifically with the hospital partners, ensuring providing them also, when we have a surplus healthcare professionals in the city, we can source these healthcare professionals even to the hospitals, and also we can set up things around the typically like supply of the medical equipments, even a hospital framework is possible. And then finally, it is about a talent management company, right? So we work on fairly being a managed service provider to a marketplace kind of a model. So talent management is more like a marketplace model. So it's more like when you say that you have like today Zorgers is a managed healthcare service provider, where we not just providing people at home, but we are ensuring the end-to-end care also happening in a structured way, right? But at the same time, from an affordability point of view, if somebody says that I just need a caregiver, but in a highly optimized and I would say an affordable way, so the Zorgers would still have a solution of providing you a caregiver in a direct model, right? Which would mean that you not essentially need to take the management function from us. You can directly source a person. It's more like a shadi.com of this industry, right? So where we say that you come on a portal, you discover a caregiver, you have define your own requirement, and the platform will throw you options. So whichever caregiver you would like to have, or a nurse you would want to have, you can have directly out here. So this is how the complete integrated approach to the service portfolio happening, starting from a very basic thing like a direct to home healthcare service journey to finally becoming a talent management company for a run which is nearly about 3 to 4 years in a city, right? Let's move to the next one, please. Yeah. So when we talk about what exactly is an advantage working with Zorgers, right? So, when we say that, of course, this ecosystem of healthcare at home, is something which cannot be said that is an absolutely new thing in India. But yes, thankfully to COVID in one way that, these nature of services have got a lot of acceptance at home, right? Today, earlier, it used a lot of, I would say, education programs to tell the people were little reluctant in order to get these services at home. Now, with Zorgers kind of an approach, I would say the good work that we would have done especially in a COVID time, working with the governments, right? So working with a lot of hospital partners, even from a consumer point of view, B2C verticals, right? So we have developed a lot of goodwill and scaled our services to an extent where people have got a lot of trust working with Zorgers now. The social media and Google reviews are a clear testimonial of how we've been operating our journey till now, right? So Zorgers' clear advantage is one is a complete full stack of services. Again, as I talked about, in terms of segment, it is an elder care, baby care, and a medical care kind of a vertical. Then we talk about a complete basic care to an ICU care kind of a segment, right? You talk about a complete tech driven kind of a the management approach, where we say that all segments of business, right? So right from a lead generation to how you discover a caregiver, or whether you provide a physical assistance at home, or to an extent of managing their attendance, payroll, every part of the business is tech enabled. We have a well-defined CRM to support the business. Then we have an Android app which is both multilingual, Hindi and English, to manage this caregiving workforce, right? So this 4,500 people are being managed using the power of Android app. We are both Government of India and Government of Punjab authorized and awarded healthcare startup, right? So the things that we mentioned on the slide talks about things like a job matching kind of an algorithm, as like absolutely the way the shadi.com kind of industry would work, or urban company would work. It, for example, you say that I'm sitting in a particular city in a particular these are hyper local services minded, right? So you need a person, a trained one, a reliable one, very near to your place, right? Somebody who's able to, like, people may come back with your requirements saying, yeah, we need a 30-year odd kind of a female at home, somebody we can trust on, somebody who's matured enough. On the other hand, the other person might come saying that, I need a very young profile because, I need somebody who's more proactive, he's energetic in that way. So everyone in from a family, not essentially I would use a patient as a word here, because that's how the traditional healthcare industry or hospital industry is different from home healthcare. So home healthcare is more about managing the aspiration of the nearbys also, right? Not essentially just a patient. Patient is a very important part of the vertical, but more essentially, I would say it is the family also becomes very important in the home healthcare, right? So the decision making, the day-to-day management is happening through that. So the highlighted ones are your clear advantage of the Zorgers. Then let's move to the next part. So that's again certain, the KPIs and the way we have been creating a news, right? So I mean, we've been largely been a bootstrap, very recently being funded through the Entrepreneur India Media as a platform, right? So Mr. Marya has been an active investor and a mentor with us, right? And we've been completed 28,000 plus transactions, 12 million plus hours of caregiving. So the entire, the gist of our media discovery is right in front of your screen. Let's move to the next part, please. The previous one, okay, yeah. So we're talking about the management team. So here we're talking about, besides me, who've been actively playing the role of a full-time, a director and CEO with the group, right? So I actively take care of the, the geographical expansion part, the investment side of the story, a lot of B2B ties. So besides, I'm being well supported by 2 more non-medicos and 1 full-time medico, which is Dr. Vineet Sagar. Dr. Vineet Sagar is like, he is a neurosurgeon with he works also with the IV group, right? And he spearheads all the medical decisions in the company and making sure that training standards are up to mark, our medical care protocols are up to mark, and ensuring that the workforce is always up to the mark when it comes to the recovery of your loved ones and supporting in a day-to-day basis. Anil takes care of the directly the operational profile, and Vinay is more of a finance and a strategy guy, right? So he's supporting the scale up part along with me. Let's move to the next part. So here we are talking about firstly when we talk about setting up this kind of an ecosystem in your city, in your territory, so we are bringing a model which is more like a unit franchisee model. So it is more like you have to start. I would say that the offer is to something like you are able to cater to up to 25 lakhs kind of a city's population, right? So right most I talk about the investment, which is 25 lakhs that we are talking about typically, right? And the split is right mentioned here. We are talking about an equipment investment of the nature of about minimum 10 lakhs kind of an odd equipment. So this equipment is a part of your asset sheet, and also it helps you in the the revenue part. So primarily towards the leasing out of the equipment, because in this nature of business, the people don't look at the the buying out the inventory on a full-time basis. I mean, people are, because sometimes the needs itself are so short-term that they would be happy to take it on a lease out model as compared to a buying out of the equipment. So this is assets with you in your balance sheet, and you are able to generate a revenue out of it by leasing out of the equipment, right? So unit outputs is something that when you open your city setup as per the guidelines, so it will take another 1.5 lakh kind of a thing. So then the trade licenses launch marketing kind of a budget, and working capital, right? So when we talk about typically, the left side is a little bit more deep dive into how the city really works, right? So typically, as I said, that around 25 lakhs kind of a population to be addressed. We talk about a payback period, which is more like, something like 15 to 18 months, right? And net margin in the business is typically bare minimum 8% up to 12%, right? Minus the royalty, right? So royalty minus karke, we are talking about the numbers, right? So which is royalties, generally we're talking about 10% of month-on-month basis, right? And marketing budget is typically around 2.5% on the central side, and another, I would say, around 3.53% nearly, as a referral come the local marketing things that we have to do. And on the medical consumable part, it is again a 3%. So that's the broader set. We can deep dive more in the question answer round, right? Let's move to the next part. So typically, if you plan to enter into this kind of a business, so who is an ideal fit, right? So as we talk about the table, right? So the model that we are bringing again is a unit franchisee FOFO, which is like a franchise owned, franchise operated kind of a model. So what roles you are expected to play is like setting up an office very near to, preferably to, a multi-specialty kind of a hospital in your area. Reach out to a doctor, like in terms of building more and more, I would say, alliances, and bringing more and more awareness about the subject. While the bigger hospital chains have to be tied up, will be tied up through these Zorgers as a central function. The parent would ensure a local, the bigger tie-ups. The local awareness with the doctor would be done through your part. Then the local city marketing is something that you have to take care of. The unit franchisee has to take up. Management of the healthcare professionals, this is something that the local partner is. This is the the key parameters, like the management of the team, right? When it comes to the holding the inventory, like on a day-to-day basis, the inventory management is again something that a partner has to take care of, right? So this on the table on the left talks about the ownership being franchisee, investments through franchisee, operations franchisee, brand guidelines has to be endorsed, right? So more or less, this is a typical FOFO model that we've been talking about, right? Let's move to the next part. Yeah, Archana, can we skip? Yeah. So this is the support function which you can expect from Zorgers as a central function, right? So the complete recruitment assistance, right? So because the healthcare professional is the core part of this engine, right? So ensuring that you get all the right people in your team, and so that you don't have hiccups in terms of, while we help you with because in our journey of 8 years we have developed a lot in terms of the right tie-ups with even the ministerial program, like healthcare skill councils across states that we have worked on, right? So that doing any kind of a bulk hiring, or even a local hiring in terms of the a Google ad kind of a campaigns, or even the people coming online, like the nurses wanting to work in a home healthcare, or a caregiver wanting to work in a home care. So this is something the Zorgers brings on the table. The complete tech support, as I mentioned about the CRM or the Android app, this is taken care of. The centralized lead management system, like so the complete digital marketing part of the system, or a social media management, including the scope of online lead generation, is something that the Zorger is going to spend a dedicated time and effort on that. The centralized care planning. So care planning is more like understanding the medical part. So this is more like a medical call center. A well-defined professionals or senior professionals are going to be available, supporting you in a local city, making sure that whatever leads that you are getting, so finally to be able to understand the medical aspects or any medical concerns your families or your clients might have, so would get addressed simply. Assistance again with the licensing with the hospital. So this is again something that Zorgers bring on the table. So all in all, what is required from your side is typically about the man management. 4 elements, I would say: man management of people, the awareness jobs that you have to do with the local hospitals and doctors. The third thing is about the inventory management, and being like a more like a PR spokesperson from a company point in your region, right? So if there is any kind of, I would say, the major the issues which come up, so being a front face of the company, so you have to ensure that your people, your clients are well, issues are being addressed, any escalations are being addressed. So that's the high level of the the support that we bring, and what is expected out of a franchisee partner. The next one, please. So that's the current diaspora. I mean, being the headquarters in Chandigarh, this company has started its journey from Mohali, Chandigarh. Today, now we are roughly, the table is talking about the presence in 10 units, right? So we are predominantly in Tri-City, covering, Punjab, Haryana, Himachal as a region, with another franchisee being operated in Ludhiana. Then, we have a presence in Ambala, Zirakpur also, and then we are present in Patiala, and then we are very recent, I mean a quarter down the line we started South Delhi operations, and we are present in Ahmedabad, and just a recent closure in Noida, right? So that's the current thing, and we have the early closures in the other cities also, which is from the we talk about the Hyderabad, Calcutta or Mumbai region as well. The next one. Yeah, so that's the broader, I mean, that's the structured, the presentation from our side. So open to a question answer kind of a round. So whatever you want to ask.
Sure. Thank you so much, Varun. Now I invite Sanjay. Sanjay, welcome to the webinar. Over to you to take queries, because we have certain queries in our question and answer box in chat box.
Thank you, Varunji, for your detailed, understanding on this model once again. And I think it's very, very fair in saying that health and wellness is always there at the front level, wherein we are looking forward for health, which is now growing, and for every person especially after COVID, we have got a lot of awareness about it. Otherwise, if we'll talk about budget towards the health, in India, we don't have budgets for the health otherwise. But I think this COVID also have given us some understanding that, boss, please make budgets, right? Every month you should have some budget towards health also. So keeping in mind this opportunity, so we have some questions which I can see. One question is coming that which kind of trade license is required?
Yeah. So this nature of business is just works as good as, like, for example, if you're setting up, a clinic or a nursing home in your area or in a city. So typically it is more or less the same model. So I mean, this is because these services are largely exempted from GST kind of a purview, right? So because these are healthcare in nature, so the key license that you need to have is like a clinical establishment kind of a registration, right? So you need to register your business in exactly the same way you would want to set up a clinic, an OPD kind of a clinic, or a nursing home, right? It's exactly the same.
All right. So do we have presence in Kolkata? I want to connect. Whom should I connect? There is one question coming in.
No, I think it is, for now the answer is no, right? But I think very soon we should be present out there. At least we have, the franchise partners office out there if somebody wants to reach physically, or else we are, available, I mean, over a Zoom call for now. But yes, as and when we open the city, we are more than happy to meet.
Great. So, Mr. Bhattacharya, you have got the answer. So we have office in Kolkata. We have our business partners from Franchise India also in Kolkata. We can get in touch. Please send us your details so that we can arrange a Zoom call with Varunji directly. In any case, we will take all your questions and queries, and then later on we can have a physical meeting as well. Mr. Pramod is asking, could you please showcase the basic business model just in one line, it's simple form, all right?
I would say every transaction that we do, I mean, this business is all about, I mean, we are talking about a professional management of resources at a high level, right? So if we are familiar with the IT industry in that way, the people who know how a typical software industry works, right? So otherwise, this is more or less the same in terms of the business model, right? So I mean, wahan par bhi, when you work with, I mean, when you do an IT project for someone, right? So you have a team of software engineers who work for you. You bill your customer and then you have your people, right? So typically the gross margin in this every transaction, like for example, if someone needs a healthcare professional at home, depending whether it is a nurse, attendant, or a doctor or a physio, so every transaction is minimum, I would say 30%, maximum 40% gross margin, right? So that is a typical difference between what you charge to a customer and what you pay to your resource.
Sure. Okay, so this is one interesting question saying that insurance. So health insurance also in the list provided by you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I mean, that's how we say that, the when you already a part of a family who's going through a medical episode, right? So they already have seen a journey of a dependent elder at home or a patient being, going through a long episode. So at least hota kya na, ki as you rightly said, we as an Indian don't mind, I mean, we don't get specific about getting a budget around the health, right? But at the same time, जब आप घर में एक episode देखते हो कि एक already कि हमने ignore किया और एक episode हो गया है, so our industry is like that. The people who are using our services, they are already in that mindset, right? So they have already seen that episode happening, so now they have become cautious, and that's how even our resource like a nurse or a caretaker being out there, or you as a brand can always upsell medical insurance, right? So the kind of tie-ups that we do have will make sure that the insurance part is taken care of, like anybody deciding a family insurance or an individual insurance can be taken care of. And the second thing is also about that if somebody is asking, the question is about the insurance being the part of the home healthcare industry, like as a pay, right? So for example, agar mere ko koi aisa episode ho gaya and in a family I need, rather than me paying out of the pocket, can insurance pay on my behalf for this home healthcare support? So the answer is again yes, right? So there are a lot of the insurance providers in India who have started giving the coverage not for the long term but the short term kind of a thing, like 30 दिन पहले before an hospitalization and 90 days after the hospitalization. So this is getting possible through various insurance providers, right?
Sure. So we have discussed on the revenue model also, but there's one question saying gross margins के ऊपर थोड़ा guide कर लीजिएगा फिर से. I think he's serious and he usually wanted to know about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think while though, I mean, if somebody is interested, we should have a detailed conversation. But yes, again, if to address the audience, again, in a general way, I can say that, as I said, that every time, like for example, let's take an example. Somebody requested for an elder care support at home. Like कोई बंदा बोलता है कि मुझे 8 घंटे के लिए मेरे फादर साहब के लिए एक सर्विस दे दीजिए. बंदा सुबह 9 बजे आता है, 7 बजे जाता है. And typically, let's say that, the person we are going to send, we are going to pay a person typically around 12 से 13,000 as a salary to this person, and while the customer cost typically depending upon a city to city will be on an average like around 17 to as high as 20,000, right? So 20,000 अगर आप कस्टमर से ले रहे हो, 12-13,000 का रिसोर्स भेज रहे हो, तो 20,000 minus the 12,000, which is, or I would say taking a worst case scenario, let's say you are taking say 18,000 from a customer and paying 13,000, so 5,000 that margin that you are getting is actually a gross margin for your business, right? So gross margin, we understand that anything which is, I mean, jiske bina revenue banana possible hi nahi hai, so that's the gross margin. So in our business, it is the people cost which is a part of the gross margin, right? So the people that you have to employ and the people that you have to continually, I would say, I mean, it is not just an open freelancing kind of an industry. Yes, though with Zorgers kind of an approach, the partner who is going to subscribe to Zorgers franchisee will get a lot of freelancing, people registered with them, but still it is like when you launch a city, 70% of your workforce is full-time people, 30% are freelancing. And when you mature a city towards the 5 years down the line, it is a reverse phenomena. You have 30% of people who are free, I mean, the full-timers, and 70% of freelancers. I hope I'm able to address, but anything more beyond that, I mean, whoever has a query, more than happy to answer one-to-one.
We can get one-on-one call, yes. And the next question is also related to the same, asking for hiring manpower. So I think maybe this is related to franchisee manpower. So if we hire a franchisee, if we have a franchise, then what about the manpower which we are going to hire for them? Is something that they have to hire, or we provide the skilled manpower?
No, I think I talked in the PPT again to reiterate. Yes, so we call something as a recruitment assistant, right? Today, I mean, any leads that we generate in a local city, I mean, whether we market or not, but based on all our experience of 8 years, I can tell you 10 calls अगर हमारे कॉल सेंटर में आती हैं तो 4 लोग वही होते हैं जो जॉब्स के लिए होते हैं, राइट? सो इट इज अ डिफॉल्ट थिंग व्हिच हैपेंस maybe in any industry, but it is very true for at least for us, right? So automatically there is a lot of pull which comes for the job community, right? So the local nurses, the local caregivers, as and when they see, this business getting, established in a city, so automatically you get, and plus in a structured way, as I said, that we work with the healthcare skill councils of the various states in India, right? And we work with a lot of nursing institutes in India. So we will enable the local partner with all possible manpower which is required to operate a city, right? Yes, there are micro level of things which a partner is also expected to do in terms of having some kind of a job camps or the activities that we formally tell during the training program. So that is also which a partner can do and can structure their the caregiving part.
Very helpful. And if we can discuss about our rollout plan now, what is our plan to, what is our vision, which cities are priority for us to take it up first for expansion?
I think if you ask me honestly, I think we are very, very focused for now. I mean, the current phase, which is going till June, it's all about getting more dense in terms of the metros. Like, we are looking for more rollouts in Delhi NCR, followed by Mumbai, Calcutta, Hyderabad, Bangalore kind of cities, right? And then we're equally open for, the tier A and tier B towns also. And we have slightly different models, especially for tier B and tier C, right? While metro and tier A is something that I have already listed in the current PPT.
Sure, no, that will be very encouraging. In fact, we have a lot of partners also in these cities. They will also know if it is open for all the cities in terms of the business model for A, B, and C category cities. So there will be some difference in the investments also.
I think the only thing I can tell you is that the business model, from a business model viability point of view, I mean, the city should have a minimum to minimum population of say 15 lakhs, right? So that's an ideal kind of a case. I mean, beyond that, it requires a lot of tweaking towards the the service offering part or to make sure the business is viable, right? But the first target is all about the cities which are, in terms of population wise, they're more 15 lakh plus, and I'm talking about the relevant HNI population also, right? So which is like because currently these services are more structured towards the HNI or upper middle class, right, as compared to just a typical middle class kind of a story. So that way these are slightly premium.
Correct. Yes, you're right in saying that the target segment is middle class and upper middle class. I think upper middle class and premium.
Absolutely.
Correct. And suppose if we are talking about sports system, though you have discussed in the PPT, there's some questions which are coming related to sports system, especially in the early stage, maybe first 3 months for a franchisee, which is very, very important for, making him stable first. So how would we look at it?
See, I think since it is the model which is being presented is largely B2C in nature, right? So while it has a B2B component also gradually down the line. So B2C point of view, say the initial brand building happens through a digital platforms, and that's where the Zorgers core strengths come into picture, right? So because I mean, whenever we are about to launch a city, so even from we start the building a good digital presence in a city a quarter before the rollout kind of a thing, and then again for the next up to 2 quarters we work dedicatedly in terms of the digital presence, right? So and over the run of the life of the business also, I mean, the digital thing is something Zorgers always ensure, whether it digital would mean social media marketing, it would mean a Google AdWords management, right? It will be an SEO or a content driven kind of a strategy. So because the target segment that we have talked about the business, I mean, we say this business would have two the terminologies. One is real consumer and another is a buyer, right? So consumer is typically somebody, a parent, grandparent, or even a patient who is locally present in a city who's going to actually avail the services. And then there is a buyer, which is typically a decision maker, right? So these decision makers are largely, are fragmented, I would say. They can be in any part of the world, right? So you can think about, a kit being available in, let's say, in Singapore, or they may be in Canada, US, wherever, and wanting to avail a physical healthcare support in Kanpur and UP, right? So this is one of the case, right? So I mean, in that way, you need to be digitally present in terms of how a kid present in, let's say, sitting in UK, Canada, or wherever, is discovering for a home healthcare service for their parent or loved one in Kanpur, right? So because we need to have a fair bit of differentiation of an agency model of working and a corporate way of more working, that's where the digital synergies play a very big role, right? So how you ensure that your customer discovery happens more online as compared to offline. So that's the key strength that we bring on the table, right? And other than the fact that the bigger hospital tie-ups, right? So we talk about Apollo, Medanta, Fortis, the max kind of a tie-up, which we will ensure. Then the recruitment assistance is something that we will ensure, and then the highly optimal tie-ups around the medical equipment, right? So making sure that the even like the electronic beds kind of a thing, or you talk about a wheelchair segment, I mean, more or less, which your customer, these kind of a customers would need in day-to-day life support system. So all those things are available to the franchise partners at throwaway kind of a prices. I mean, with all challenge on the table, right? So, can never get that price point from any other channel, right? So that is something that we ensure, so that they build a good revenue pipeline or the good margins for themselves and finally for us as well.
Great, yeah, that's very helpful. And there's one of our investor, Pramod ji from Central India, saying I'm in Indore. So what is the opportunity in Indore? So I believe Indore is one of the upcoming markets. Every brand today is looking forward for presence in Indore. For sure, we have a great opportunity there. But from your side, then you look at it, especially Indore, what kind of business opportunity we are looking at there?
No, I definitely think Indore is a very, very potential city. There is no doubt about it at all, right? So, I mean, Indore is as good as, I mean, with the parent, the city that we are operating like a Chandigarh kind of a model, right? So, Indore is a highly, I think, a lifestyle city these days, and the healthcare ecosystem is also flourishing. So, I think for me, I think out of the 5, I will rate at least the 4-star to Indore for this kind of a model.
So, Pramod ji, we can get in touch with you, or you can also share with us. We will share our hotline number also, but you can also share your details. We'll get in touch. For sure, we are looking for a very, very strong partner in Indore, and who can take this completely up for complete Indore. So this will be a very good opportunity for you to expand in your city and to give this opportunity to all the people for healthcare related in your city for sure. There is one Mr. Saurabh Sharma ji. He is asking for Dabur does have the same home care services. So how different are you from there?
So I think Dabur, when we call, they have a venture called Healthcare at Home, right? So there is a joint venture between Daburs in India and Healthcare at Home UK. So they are more or less positioned in the market from the time we are there. But like in any market or any segment we talk about, there is definitely a competition. If you ask me the USP part of it, so we are a full stack player. As I said, that we are there from an elder care support system to a patient care to a baby care kind of a segment, then right from a very basic level of a care to an ICU care. So Dabur is more like a B2B player working with the hospitals in terms of bringing the post ICU kind of a care. So their specialization or their positioning in the market is more like being a post ICU kind of a player, having a very, very niche that they have created, and all due respect to the model that they have been operating, right? So but I think R is more like a holistic full stack kind of a player model. I mean, if you talk about today, I mean, in terms of any city's demand, as I made my opening statement, in terms of statistics, we are talking about 11% people being, the old age people, and finally, you can say a city's even 1% of a population being dependent elder. आप मान के चलिए कि अगर 20 लाख population है किसी city की, और 20 लाख में से अगर 20,000 लोग भी dependent elder है, तो you can expect the potential in a city vis-a-vis कि कितने लोग ICU से निकल के घर पे केयर करने जाएंगे, right? So there is a difference, right? So there is a very bigger cloud that we've been operating versus, you know, the niche that they have, right? So, but again, I mean, any market, any segment that we talk about, there is a fair bit of competition. There are players in our segment also, right? So I think this problem is itself too big to be solved by one player, right? And even for us, that is the reason why we opened the franchisee model, right? Because if we want to organically scale it versus looking for a franchisee partner, again, you know, we are looking for the people to come with the similar synergies, with a similar vision to drive and be a local champion in their cities, right? So that is again one of the differentiation that we bring in the table. While, you know, the Dabas, or, you know, there is a company called Proteas, or to that matter, anybody would want to have a organic scale model. We work with a model which is more like a franchise driven kind of a model, where we want to enable the local champions in the city.
I think Mr. Saurabh has got our answer, and he is further writing that I am ready and interested for Jaipur city for this segment. So he wanted to take Jaipur. So Saurabhji will get in touch with you after this webinar, and we will connect further for a final discussion with Varunji directly, and then we'll take a discussion up. Thank you very much for your interest. And then further, we have got some support system and finance structure, how it is looking like. So I think support we have discussed. Finance structure looks when a partner tries to invest with us. I am not getting this question, but I think he is asking for if any partner, any investor is joining you as a partner, as a franchisee, is there any finance structure also for him, maybe for the investment, what he has to do?
I think if the question maybe is more towards that, you know, there are models as we typically operate. A franchisee model is like a FOFO is something that we've been talking about, but then there is something called as a FICO or a COFO, right? So which is again, right? So somebody who just wants to become a, you know, a finance partner wanting to fuel a city, and they want not wanting to get operationally involved in the business. So I would want the, you know, the reward from my side would be that yes, the principal thing that we are open from a FICO or a COFO kind of a model as well, right? But for a very selective unit or cities, right? So I mean, the some of the strategic cities that we are fairly open for a FICO or a COFO kind of a model, right? But if you ask me, I mean, not everywhere. And then, you know, I mean, yes, so in that way, there is a different model. I can always explain one-to-one, whoever is interested, that how, you know, a FICO or a COFO model is going to work in our case. Right now, the current discussion of the PPT that has been presented, because Zorgers, we promote more like a FOFO kind of a model, because we want the people who have the similar energy and passion to operate a city, but lackly structuring domain knowledge, I would say, or, you know, they want to accelerate their growth, right? So the thing is that if you want to do of your own, wanting to create your own brand or want to run vis-a-vis working with us, is that it is, you're going to shorten the time. And then of course, you know, when we have evolved over a period of 8 years, there have been a lot of mistakes that we would have done. We would not want you to make that mistakes, and to shorten the I would say your revenue making cycle, or to be able to get a better margins for you. That is the support that you get. But yes, that's the answer from my side.
Pramodji is further writing. Thank you so much. I like your idea. Please provide detailed brochure and the presentation. He has sent us his own details also. For sure, Pramodji, thank you very much for your interest. After this webinar, we'll quickly get in touch with you. We have got your details. Thank you very much for joining in. Thank you for your time and interest. So I think we have a lot of questions further coming in, which I believe we should, which are the big cities you are operating in as a franchisee. Some of the big cities Saurabh is asking for.
See, he's asking about the which cities we are interested for.
Where you are operating as of now as a franchisee.
Okay, so we are already in Delhi NCR, as I said, that, you know, I mean, that is the top big city for now, and then followed by Ahmedabad, another second big city that we are operating, right? And thirdly, you know, we are in Chandigarh Tri-City, which is the oldest city for us, right? That's, you know, the parent city from where we started, right? And we've been operating more or less the Punjab, Haryana, Himachal part, but yes, the major dominance is Chandigarh Tri-City, Delhi NCR, and I would say, you know, the Ahmedabad units.
Okay, hopefully this was the answer he was expecting, but more or less now, if I can just, I think there are a lot of questions keep on coming, so we will get in touch with them for sure one-on-one. But anything from your side, any comment related to a franchisee, any upcoming franchisee, how should they look at it, especially after the COVID, when people are aware of health related now services, health related issues, which are going to be now day by day. So we know everything about it, but anything from your side before anybody who is looking forward for a franchisee, what should be your maybe comment?
Yeah, sure. I think, see, I mean, from a healthcare point of view, so the COVID has played a real big role, right? So I think, as I made an introduction statement also, I think the biggest thing that the COVID has done in this phase from healthcare is the awareness thing, right? So earlier, I mean, this subject in India, I would say in an unorganized or in a now in organized way through players like us, right, is in existence from last 8 to 10 years, right? Or even I say unorganized from ages, right? What COVID has played is to bring more and more awareness and acceptance, right? जब कोविड के दिन में किसी को हॉस्पिटल ही नहीं मिल रहा था, हॉस्पिटल का बेड नहीं मिल रहा था, तो आर the helplines were flooded to get all equivalent hospital care support at home, right? So whether a person genuinely needed a hospital bed or not, but एक होता ना एक fear factor ही ऐसा हो गया था कि I mean कुछ हो गया तो क्या होगा type. So this is where the home healthcare has played a very big role in terms of not just providing a physical healthcare, but more like an emotional support, or a well-being kind of a support, which has also been assured for the respective cities that we've been operating, right? So I would not say that just Zorgers, but the entire fraternity has played its own big role in terms of giving that peace of mind, right? So I think the awareness piece, my bottom line would remain that awareness and acceptance, these two things have improved tremendously during the COVID times, right? So today, if you launch this in your city, at least you don't need to do that level of great bit of marketing to let the people know कि ऐसा भी कुछ exist करता है. So people at least know the subject by now. It is all about structuring your business in a right way. I mean, having the right team, because this business, what it really requires is a good team structure. I mean, because finally it is about the organized supply of the healthcare professionals. So organized supply is something that we work with the partners, but when it comes to the healthcare professionals, again, we are the one who are going to source it for you largely, but how good you are in terms of the people management, right? So the core success is about the effectiveness to manage the people in a right way using again the technology that we provide.
Absolutely. I think from this COVID side, if we talk about all over, it was a very negative impact, but we also have a lot of positivity, a lot of positive things, which are the takeaways. As Indians, we talk about the budgets when we have to save the tax. So we are talking about tax saving people. So, that's why we go for health insurance also. But now I think everybody is aware we need to have something in advance. It is not that last minute we should look at it. We should have in advance all the strategies, and then we need very good brands, very good opportunities like Zorgers for sure, which would really help us to service the community. Second, it will create a lot of entrepreneurship and employment for a lot of people in these cities. And the franchising is for sure giving us an opportunity to expand, to reach out to more cities, to reach out to more people. And taking up from franchisee would mean you are further creating an entrepreneurship to a lot of people who are looking forward for maybe some employment, maybe some job related, maybe some vendors who are getting attached to it, associated with you. So you are spreading an entrepreneurship. I think in India, franchising is the only way where we are looking at, which would really help us to build our economy, because otherwise it is very, very difficult, as we are talking about startup India. But I think we need to do something practical on ground to help people to enter into entrepreneurship. And Zorgers, yes, for sure, is a very good opportunity, because education and healthcare would remain always two top level categories for franchising, also to reach out to the end consumer as well. So thank you very much, Varunji, for your time as well today. And it was pleasure always to have you with us in this webinar to spread out health, spread out the health related information, spread out the health related opportunity. We will definitely look forward for all the investors to have one-on-one discussion with them, and look forward for more discussions further. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thanks for hosting. Thanks.
Thank you, Archana. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Varun. Thanks, Namrata. Thanks, Sanjay. Thanks, all the dear participants. We got some very important queries. We'll try to reach you by today itself. And our local team as well as team from corporate will definitely be in touch with you. Please connect with us at our business hotline number, which is 9717683838. Also, you can write to us at feedback@franchiseindia.in. Connect with management team of Franchise India at their LinkedIn IDs. Information we have just shared on the screen. And tomorrow, under our prime time national webinar, we are bringing the brand Quick Tile. It's the largest and the fastest going recession-proof business. How? To understand this, please join us tomorrow by 12 p.m. by doing registration. Registration can be done either at our business hotline number or go to Facebook page. Thank you once again for joining in today. Have a great day ahead. Thank you so much.